Namaskar, all my dear friends and fellow Tabla students. Welcome to the first ever Tabla tutorial video that I'm doing for my YouTube channel. I welcome you all, and before I say anything, I have to thank you for all the love and all the warmth and all the blessings that you have showered on me so far. And I hope you will keep doing so in the near future. A lot of you have been asking me questions about various things, about the things that I play, the videos that I make on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I have not been able to answer the questions because it is very difficult to answer these questions in detail on Instagram, because tabla is a very vast subject and it requires very subjective explanations. So I decided to do these videos. Today we'll be talking about practice, or Riyaz as we know it. This video is primarily about the understanding of what practice is, how it is done, and then I will share with you a few tips and tricks about how I approach practice and how I've been taught to practice by my amazing, incredible gurus that I've had the great fortune of being able to study with. So let's get right into it. Practice is the religion of a musician. I very strongly feel that as a musician, I don't really have another religion. It doesn't matter whether I'm Hindu or I'm Muslim or I'm Christian or whatever. My religion is music. My religion is music. And the practice of that religion is the practice of my music. Because it is also said that music is the highest form of worship for those who practice it. So, what is practice actually? Practice, in my eyes, the way I have realized it so far, is broken up into several different stages in which we practice. So, as a beginner, a practice routine is very important. It is very important that you set a certain time and you set a certain number of times that you repeat a certain thing. So it is basically based on repetition. Again and again and again and again, doing it repetitively. What happens when you do something repetitively is that the concept and the technique, the logic of it all, and the physicality, meaning the bodily change and orientation that your muscles and nerves have to go through, are developed. So for example, if you are practicing a bowl like your hands are moving a certain way, and when you learn it for the first time, it is a strange feeling to move your hand in this particular way because you've never done it before. But what happens in practice is that if you do it enough times, over a period of time, your brain starts to recognize patterns of movements, and eventually it becomes what is known as muscle memory. So I guess for those of you who are starting out with this instrument, or any instrument for that matter, the important thing is to repeat one thing many, many, many times without stopping in between, and so that it becomes second nature. It becomes something that you can do in your sleep. So one thing I must point out, which is something that happens to all of us as tabla players or as musicians, is that we tend to get bored of repeating one thing again and again and again. So what we end up doing is we get distracted and start playing other things. We're practicing but that has to be avoided. That has to be avoided as much as possible, because you have to do that one particular thing as many times as you can without getting distracted into something else, because as soon as you're playing something else, you're sending a different signal to your brain. Now, let me share with you all a concept which many of you may know, but for those of you who don't, there is a thing called the 10,000 hour rule. The 10,000 hour rule is something that has been researched and confirmed by scientists, cognitive neuroscientists and psychologists, which says that any human being, doesn't matter whether it's you or me, any human being, if they put 10,000 hours, in other words, if you put 10,000 hours of time and sincere effort, and when I say time and sincere effort, I mean really, there's no cheating here, because the only person you could possibly be cheating is yourself. So if you put 10,000 hours into anything, and 10,000 hours is roughly 4 hours a day for 10 years. If you are able to put 10,000 hours, which is 4 hours a day for 10 years, religiously into doing anything, it makes no difference what that is. You may be playing an instrument, you may be playing a sport, you may be dancing, you may be painting, you may be writing, you may be doing anything. Whatever the discipline is, regardless of that, if you can put 10,000 hours of time and sincere effort into something, you are going to excel at it. There is no question. That is how the human brain is designed. So, for those of you who have often asked me the question, sir, is it possible, I mean, will I be able to do this? Am I going to be able to play this instrument? When will I be able to do this? I cannot really give you a date. I cannot give you a date because, I can't predict the future. And I also don't know how much of time and effort you're willing to put into it. But I guarantee you, if you follow the 10,000 hour rule and you put this effort, which is 4 hours a day for 10 years, or if you are, in a hurry, maybe 8 hours a day for 5 years, it's up to you, it's your choice. If you put that effort in, the time and the sincere effort, then you will be able to do it, and that is a promise. If you do this and it doesn't work, then you have my information below. You can always get back to me and say that, you said this will happen and it didn't, and I will be held accountable. Okay? So, the thing about practice is, initial stage of practice when you're beginning with an instrument is just endless number of repetitions. The second point about practice, and I cannot stress this enough, my gurus have not been able to stress this enough to me, and I imagine their gurus haven't been able to stress it enough. Slow practice, slow practice, slow practice. Regardless of what you play, we tabla players and drummers, we have a tendency to go into very fast playing, and we want to get there immediately. That doesn't happen. And if it does happen, if you actually do acquire a high amount of speed, the definition of what you're playing is not going to be in solid ground. It has to be a very strong foundation. So very patiently, whatever the bowl is, whatever the composition is that you're playing, play it at the slowest tempo that you possibly can, the tempo that you're comfortable playing in. And then keep repeating that until it becomes so comfortable that you practically don't have to make any effort. You don't have to make any effort. So I can keep doing this. I can just keep doing this all day. I don't have to think about it. So when you are that comfortable with that tempo, with that speed, and you're making the proper sound, by proper sound, I mean each syllable has to have definition. This bol dha tere ke te tak. This is just an example. It applies to anything you play. Dha tere ke te tak, dha tere ke te tak. So your te is a 3-finger stroke te, in which very practically speaking, in between the middle finger and the ring finger lies the center of your C high, the black circle over here. Te, te, te. So, and then what happens is the index finger comes and replaces the three fingers. And this is the full hand tete. I will talk about terekete in the next video. Terekete will be a separate video, so I'm not going into too much of detail here. But all of them have to be clearly heard, and so does ta. So ta, this will continue until this is absolutely rock solid. Once you do that, now I will discuss how we get into playing fast. The step-by-step way, there are two ways of gaining speed and solidifying your hand in that speed. There is a myth about the faster you can play, the greater player you are, but that is absolutely not true. And I can guarantee you that with examples, but I would rather not, get into that discussion. Speed means nothing without definition. If I cannot hear the notes you're playing, if there is no musicality, if there is no expression, if there is no dynamics, which means if there is no flow of high and low volume, then there is no musicality. You might as well be a drilling machine. A drilling machine is not musical, but it goes really fast in a repetitive manner, and it's very irritating, right? So your definition has to be absolutely clear. Once you are comfortable at this tempo, then you increase the tempo ever so slightly to the next level. And ever so slightly, when I say ever so slightly, I mean very, in very small increments. So let's say your starting tempo is once you're absolutely confirmed and comfortable and dynamics are defined, the sounds are clear, all of that happens, the tempo rise is this much. The next rise is so on. That is one way of doing it. Once you have gone to a comfortable speed, which is fast enough to sustain you for a while, the other thing that we do, and I have been taught by my guru, is a practice of single tempo and double tempo, which means you play something at half speed. And then once you're ready, you jump straight to the double speed of that same thing. And you play it for as long as you can, without stopping and without changing. I have to keep reiterating, do not distract yourself. Play the same exact thing again and again. But when you jump to the double speed of what you are playing, you sustain it for as long as you can. Once your hands are tired and you're not being able to sustain it anymore, you don't stop. You drop back to the half speed that you were playing. Okay, so for example, drop back to the original half speed. That will relax your hand, that will give you a little bit more of energy to conserve. And once you're relaxed and ready to go again, you go back at the double speed, and you keep going back and forth between the half and the double. So if you are starting at this tempo, it's single and double. So to recap, the two ways of attaining speed, one is increments of speed. Once you've attained absolute comfort in one speed, you jump to a slightly higher speed, slightly, and you get absolutely comfortable with that speed. Do not rush. There's no hurry. There is no train that you have to catch or flight that you will miss. So please don't rush. Please don't hurry. Take your time. Get as comfortable as you can with that speed. Once you're comfortable with that speed, then increment it again with the same amount of elevation to the next speed. And that is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is going single and double speed. So you play something in half tempo, keep playing it, and then you jump to the double tempo of that, twice the speed of that. And then you can sustain it as long as you want. As soon as you're at that point where you're not being able to sustain it anymore and the hands are starting to get stiff, then you drop back to the half speed tempo. The other very, very important thing that I have to tell you about practicing is the concept of breathing. The concept of breathing is so important because what happens is when we're playing, like, for example, we're playing something really fast, like we are so focused on what we are playing and we are so tensed about whether we are playing it correctly, you will notice that you've stopped breathing. And this happens to all of us. We stop breathing, we stop, our body freezes up. So what happens when we stop breathing is that we lose stamina, we lose energy, we lose oxygen in our body. And eventually we have to give up on what we're doing because the body needs oxygen. So very consciously try this out, and I'm sure it will work for you. Very consciously make sure that you are breathing while you play. Okay, make sure that there is a breathe in and breathe out happening no matter what you're doing. Make a conscious effort of that. I guarantee you that it's going to help you last longer in every aspect of practice that you're doing. It will help with your stamina, it will help with your energy and the consistency of what you're playing. So the other thing that we have to discuss in terms of practice is the fact that whenever you're practicing, pay attention. Focused practice is the most important thing. If you are not focused, if you're not concentrating on the sound, like let's say you're playing and you're playing it mechanically, but inside you're thinking about the next Avengers movie that is coming, then the practice is actually a little pointless, because if you're not focusing on it, then your mind and body are not connected. Practice is not simply a physical thing. The last aspect that I have to discuss with you is the aspect of mental practice. So there is one thing which is practicing physically and playing your instrument physically for hours and hours a day. But the other thing that is really important and very often overlooked by a lot of musicians, and especially young music students, is the fact that you have to mentally remain in that space. You have to think about what you played. You have to analyze, you have to critically, dissect each part of one composition and think about where I'm stressing something, how is the dynamics working out, how much of time am I spending on generating a sound, and is the sound that I'm generating actually the sound that I want to generate, or what other possibilities are there. So, physical practice, there are, your practice as a whole, in terms of the development of your musicianship or your life as a musician, because making music is not a job, it's not a profession, it's not a business. Being a musician is a way of life. Making music is a way of life. If you're a musician, you're a certain kind of person, and so living that life of that kind of a person is what we call being a musician or musicianship. So developing that, your practice and your development as a musician is essentially, apart from learning, is essentially broken up into three divisions in my humble understanding. Physical practice, which is actually sitting down and playing your instrument in a very focused manner. Two is mental practice, which is thinking about it, being in that mental space, thinking about it, analyzing it, understanding it, going into depth, asking questions, all of that. And the third is listening. It is very, very of paramount importance. I cannot stress this enough for tabla players. Please go out there. Today you have YouTube, you have Spotify, you have iTunes, you have so many platforms where thousands and thousands of great recordings are available. Please make it a point to go into that space and listen to as much music as you can. Because the more you listen, the more your mind is getting familiarized with the sounds and the combinations and the dynamics of how it's done. So when you actually sit down to play it, your brain will tell you that, oh, okay, I've heard this before and this is how it's played. So yeah, I know what I'm doing. It's about familiarity with the subject. You have to be so familiar with the subject that the minute something is introduced to you, at some level, subconsciously or consciously, you have heard it before. It should not be something that's completely foreign to you. And the only way to do that is to listen to music. So physical practice, mental practice, and listening. Listening is of paramount importance. And when I say listening, I don't mean just listening to others. I mean listening to yourself as well. When you're playing, you must listen to what you're playing, not just play it with deaf ears and just, hope that you're playing the right thing. If you're not playing the right thing, you will hear it, and the music itself will tell you, the sound itself will tell you that there's something wrong. If I'm playing, there's something wrong with what I'm doing because it's sounding harsh to me as opposed to, right? So that is my 2 cents on practice for today. I will be making many more videos every week. I will try to bring you a new tutorial video where I will discuss these points. I sincerely hope that this has been helpful to you. Please keep supporting my channel and my music. I'm infinitely indebted to you and grateful to you for all the love that you've given me. There's a subscribe button, that red button down there. Please hit that button so that you are subscribed to my channel and you have access to all the videos that I make. And there is a notification bell. There's a bell icon. If you click that bell icon, as soon as my tutorial is out there, you'll be sent a notification and you can join me right away. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed, stay safe, and I will see you next week with another tabla tutorial video.